Greetings and salutations, fellow adventurers. I'm Leotrax, and this is the Lost Treasures of Gaming. So grab your pint of ale or beer, mug of tea or coffee, or can of energy drink, whatever you like, and let's go back in time. The game today is Emperor Battle for Dune. I hear some of you shouting, "This is Dune! It can't be forgotten!" But trust me, a lot of people know Dune 2 and Dune 2000, but almost no one knows this one, excluding the Westwood Command and Conquer fans and the Dune fans. But before I continue with the game, let me give you a short explanation, if I can, of what is Dune. Dune is 1965 science fiction novel by American author Frank Herbert, set in the distant future amidst a feudal interstellar society in which various noble houses control planetary fiefs. Dune tells the story of young Poe Atreides, whose family accept the stewardship of the planet Arrakis. While the planet is an inhospitable and sparsely populated desert wasteland, it is the only source of melange, or the spice, a drug that extends life and enhances mental abilities. Melange is also necessary for space navigation, which requires a kind of multidimensional awareness and foresight that only the drug provides. As melange can only be produced on Arrakis, control of the planet is thus a coveted and dangerous undertaking. The story explores the multi-layered interactions of politics, religion, ecology, technology, and human emotions as the factions of the Empire confront each other in a struggle for the control of Arrakis and its spice. The first novel also inspired a 1984 movie adaptation by David Lynch, which some of the visuals we can see in the game. I'm about to talk right now. Oh, and also just as a side note here, after the 2000 miniseries and sequel, the director Denis Villeneuve, whom we know for Sicario and Blade Runner 2049, is making a new movie that we expect in the end of this year of 2020. Emperor Battle for Dune is a real-time strategy released in 2001 by Westwood Studios, by the time already under Electronic Arts. Like we said, it's based in Frank Herbert's science fiction Dune universe. Informally, it is known as Dune 3, but nobody actually called it that. It is the third real-time strategy game set in the Dune universe, following its predecessors Dune 2 and Dune 2000. While Dune 2 was a totally distinct story to that of Dune, and Dune 2000 was a remake of Dune 2, Emperor is a direct sequel to the previous games. In particular, it is a sequel to Dune 2000, carrying it from where it left off, with several of the characters and actors returning. Okay, you heard that I did not mention the first game except once. That's because the first Dune game is so different from the sequels. Made by Cryo Interactive in 1992, Dune blended adventure with economic and military strategy, and is considered by many the most immersive Dune computer game. Loosely following the story of the novel with visuals from the 1984 movie, the game casts the player as Poe Atreides, with the ultimate goal of driving the Harkonnen from Dune, while managing spice extraction, military, and later ecology through the native Fremen tribes. Okay, back to the actual game. Let's first look at the story. Emperor is set shortly after the first Spice War of Dune 2000. Emperor Frederick IV Corrino has been killed by his concubine Lady Elara, and the Landsraad has been thrown into chaos. The Spicing Guild has presented the three remaining houses, the same as those in the previous game: House Atreides, House Harkonnen, and House Ordos, with a unique challenge: a war of assassins on the planet Arrakis. Whichever house wins the war will become the new leader of the Landsraad, and its leader, the new Padishah Emperor, the Emperor of the known universe. Like the two previous games, Emperor pits three houses against each other: Atreides, Harkonnen, and Ordos. Those are also the 3 campaigns. Also during the gameplay, depending on choices made, the player may also be allied with or pitted against one or more of the 5 initially neutral factions and use the units of his allies. These are the Tleilaxu, the Ixians, the Fremen, the Sardaukar, and the Spicing Guild. Emperor expands upon the territory domination style gameplay between missions from its predecessors. In the previous games, the territory chosen from the map screen simply determined the shape of the map to be played on. However, in Emperor, the choice of territory can affect mission objectives and alliances. The player is also given reinforcement units to move around the map, which can affect the in-game missions. Territorial control also becomes more interesting with the enemy AI also capable of wrestling back the land that the other player has just conquered in the previous battle, although it can prove repetitive over time. While there is one major ending, the 3 campaigns have subplots revolving around each faction's intent to conquer Arrakis. House Atreides' campaign revolves around regaining the trust of the Fremen, with whom they have had an uneasy relationship due to unknown past events. Many of the starting missions revolve around forming an alliance with the Fremen. House Harkonnen's campaign revolves around the ailing Baron Rakan Harkonnen and his 2 sons, Gunsec and Kopek, bearing striking resemblance to Fed Rauta and Glossu Raban respectively, from the 1984 movie, who both vie to take the Baron's place upon his death. Kopek and Gunsec are at one another's throats and compete for the Baron's favor as the latter's days grow shorter. At one point, the player have to choose between Gunsec or Kopek. House Ordos' campaign revolves around their ability to create Golas, clones. The house eventually creates a Gola of the deceased Emperor Frederick Corrino, who will serve as a puppet emperor subservient to House Ordos. Ordos' motives are typically insidious in that they attempt to manipulate many of the sub-houses, Fremen, Sardaukar smugglers, into conflicting with any of the major houses they are fighting, using Golas and other forms of treachery to thwart any attempt at alliance among their enemies and secure alliances for House Ordos. Now let's look at the sub-factions. The Fremen. They are the natives of Dune led by Corlan, and are usually able to be allies with the Atreides and Ordos through assistance and deception respectively, but are typically enemies with the Harkonnens. All Fremen units are stealthed, and all are able to roam the desert and not attract sandworms as they traverse the dunes. They have only 2 types of infantry. Another, the Imperial Sardaukar, the infamous and fanatical shock troops of House Corrino. The demise of their emperor left them without a leader to serve. The Sardaukar traveled to Arrakis during the war between the houses to observe the fighting and hope to ally with the house that proves to be the strongest. The Sardaukar are fearless and nearly suicidal in their own disregard for personal safety. As such, they refuse to duck under fire, believing it to be a sign of cowardice. The Ixians. Well, within the game, the Ix is described as a fascist, technocratic house in which the scientist elite rules. Its people slave in factories to produce Ixian technology, which provides the elite with profit. The Tleilaxu, known as the Bean Tleilax, known as only as the Tleilaxu in the game also, is another sub-faction. In-game they are treated for practical purpose as a great house. The Bent Tleilax are religious fanatics who believe machines are evil, as in Heretics of Dune, one of the books, rather than the Amorode traders seen in most of the series. Because of their gruesome technology, they are largely disliked. And finally, the Spacing Guild. They play the role of a sub-house which allows allied players access to 2 units, the Maker, a navigator-like infantry unit with a power weapon, and the Niab tank, capable of using the fold space technology to teleport itself. It is not possible to ally with the guild during any of the single-player campaign, as they play the role of the ultimate antagonist in the final mission, regardless of which house is chosen, but it is possible to use them in multiplayer and skirmish games. The cutscenes in the game, like Dune 2000 and other Westwood Studios games, are high-quality full-motion video cutscenes. Emperor contains significantly more and longer videos than the previous games. Several actors have returned from Dune 2000, including Adrian Sparks as Emperor Corino and Musetta Vander as Lady Elara. In addition, several notable actors appeared in the videos, including the all-favorite Star Trek Klingon, Worf, played by Michael Dorn, who here plays the role of Duke Achilles Atreides of House Atreides. The late Vincent Schiavelli as the Harkonnen Mentat Yannick Kobal, and Michael McShane as the Baron Rakan Harkonnen. The theme of the cutscenes, including the costumes, sets, and vehicles, were largely based on David Lynch's film of the original Dune novel. The music is very nice, and it gets that sci-fi atmosphere. It's original soundtrack, but you can still hear some samples from the 1984 movie. And it has 4 types of music: basic neutral melodies and specific for each faction. For example, the Atreides have light and symphonic sound, the Harkonnen dark and sometimes heavy metal sound, and the Ordos mostly electronics. The game graphics are in 3D. You can turn the camera around the units and zoom in and out. Interestingly, even then the graphics were thought to be outdated, but it was the first attempt for Westwood Studios in the 3D graphics. Unlike the previous games, in Emperor you don't have the classical 2 columns in the right with buildings and units. This time you have building, infantry and machine tabs, plus upgrades for buildings, which allows you to train or construct more units. This formula is later reintroduced in Command & Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars and also Red Alert 3. The units differ very much for the 3 factions. Some common units are the light infantry, scouts and engineers, the harvesters and their carriers, known as carrios, and well, that's it. The Atreides have snipers, Kinjal infantry, which when deployed is actually with a mortar, Moongoose, which is 2-legged light mech with missiles, the Minotaur, which is also 2-legged walking artillery, Sandbike, sonic tanks, and of course the flying ornithopters. The Harkonnen are more brutal. Except the trooper, which is armed with bazooka, they have the flame troopers. The buzzsaw, which is a vehicle with huge saw in the middle that can destroy the spice fields. Assault tanks, flame tanks, missile tanks, a lot of tanks, incline catapults, yes, you heard me, catapults, and the Devastator, which is like huge, slow walking super mech. They also have the gunships for air support. And the Ordos have some uniques first. They don't have light infantry, but chemical troopers. They spray the battlefield with poison gas, also AA troopers or anti-air, mortar infantry and saboteurs. In vehicles they have the Dust Scout, which resemble 4-legged spider thingy, the laser tank, the APC, the Cobra, which is the Ordos artillery, and the Deviator. Well, I think this is it, folks. Time to wrap things up. The game has outdated graphics even for 2001. The music is awesome and also gameplay is innovative for the time. The story of the game is at its best. The cinematics with the actors are like short movies. You can spend hours upon hours of fighting the battlefields of Dune. Sadly though, the game has not been supported since. There is one patch, I think, 1.09, and that's it. There is no resolution fix for modern machines. There are some advices on the net, but you know how messy it can get with these old first-time 3D graphics. Also, sadly, I could not find the game to be sold on Steam or Origin. If you have the CDs, well, I think you need older OS like Windows 98, 2000 or XP to run the game, or if you have it from somewhere else. And also there are pretty good advices on the internet how to run the game. It's hard to make run on modern machines though, but once you make it, It's a lot of fun. And if you have it and you play it with the help of additional software for emulating LAN games, you can play with your friends. And the final verdict is 4 out of 5 stars. If the game had received any support even from the fans like modders, I would praise it even higher. I still have the box with the 4 CDs here. Yes, I bought the game back in 2001. I was a little kid and my mom took me to the game store and asked me to pick one game. I remember I was a huge Dune fan, mostly watching David Lynch's horror epic from 1984, and I was able to play Dune 2000, so in the moment she asked me this, I looked around and I saw it. Those were the days. Also, I was a little bit disappointed. I had few games before that. They were all in these boxes with books inside, with tutorials, and this small plastic box with 4 CDs in paper bags. Still, I had it. Got home and started playing the very same day. Good thing it was Christmas and I was in vacation. The good old days. Well folks, I hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you all for watching. Please like this video. If you want more, press the subscribe button and then the bell icon next to it to get notified when I upload the next one. Share the video and of course leave a comment of advice or criticism to improve myself and I'll gladly read it. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to watch me play some good games, maybe join me in some of them and have a nice chat, you're more than welcome to my Twitch channel. Links will be in the description down below. I stream every day from Tuesday to Friday at 8 PM Central European Time. Have a nice day or evening, and remember, fortune favors the bold. I'll see you in the next adventure.